yarayı kaşımak. Sor, iyisi çıkacak mı, içime akacak mı ve güneş açacak mı? Aşk gidene acımak mı, bu yükü taşımak mı, yarayı kaşımak mı? Gidene acımak mı, bu yükü taşımak mı, yarayı kaşımak mı? Sor, iyisi çıkacak mı, içime akacak mı ve güneş açacak mı? Ben ne sana taparım, ne seni ararım, ne trip atarım. Sen ne beni oyala, ne omuz ovala. İçime akacak mı ve güneş açacak mı?
Rust is a griefer's paradise. There's nothing quite like finding a guy sleeping in a forest and looting him before he wakes up, or camping outside another player's fort and killing her when she opens the door. For those who enjoy deadly games of cat and mouse, Rust might just be the best survival game out there. But anybody more interested in building and exploration, or those who aren't able to devote themselves to one game, may have a rough time. Every time you join a server, your life begins the same way, You wake up on a great-looking island, completely naked, as a randomly generated character based on your Steam ID number. You're armed with nothing but a rock and a torch. In this respect, Rust doesn't deviate much from the standard survival formula found in games like Minecraft, The Forest, Stranded Deep, or Subnautica. Using your rock, you chop down trees and gather rocks, which you use to build a rudimentary shelter while keeping an eye on hunger, thirst, and health gauges. Over time, you'll find blueprints that let you build better tools, which greatly improve your chances of survival. That progression can feel stunted, because finding blueprints in Rust is unreliable at best. Duplicate blueprints for unneeded items are common, while essentials like a hatchet can be elusive. When that happens, you need to research blueprints for items you find in the world. That means finding a research table or building a level 1 workbench, and then crafting a research table of your own. All of this requires you to have hundreds of the appropriate materials on hand to craft, and there's still a degree of chance involved with finding the items you need to deconstruct. That leads to a lot of frustrating grinding. In that way, a lot of the ability to progress is based on the luck of the draw. For instance, much of the best loot is found in radiation zones that require protective gear, so if you're not lucky enough to find some, you're going to have a hard time exploring those zones without dying. All of that happens while contending with hostile players, which adds a constant element of danger. There can be over 400 on a single server, and they're all potentially dangerous. Like the once popular zombie survival game DayZ, it's best to approach other people with a distrustful eye. Cooperation is certainly possible, especially if you go in with friends, but most interactions with strangers seem to result in trash talk and combat. Often, that's just one player ambushing the other and killing them before they know what hit them. Unfortunately, the combat never really feels good enough to be exciting on its own merits because of weak feeling and inaccurate weapons. Don't expect the tense conflicts of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds or Fortnite here, though some Rust servers do have their own Battle Royale modes. But the stakes are high. Losing a fight with rare gear in your inventory can mean hours of valuable crafting and resource gathering down the drain. That does add a sense of tension. But that fear of losing everything persists in an unwelcome way even when you're not playing, because Rust expects you to spend most of your gaming time playing Rust. Your base will fall apart if you don't constantly restock its tool closet. When you're not contending with other players, you're busy scrounging for food, water, shelter, and heat. And even success is temporary. If you start on a new server, or your server gets wiped for any reason, you have to start over from scratch. At least after 4 years of early access, Rust performs well. What rough edges remain are limited to a handful of broken achievements, mild bouts of pop-in, and occasional rubber banding on high-population servers. For the most part, everything ran smoothly for the 30 hours played for this review. Rust is an aggressively competitive survival game that thrives on conflict and trash talk. Other games are better at the individual components, like DayZ for the tense player interactions, Fortnite for the Battle Royale mode, or Subnautica for the survival gameplay, but Rust blends lesser versions of all three together in a way that works. For competitive players who want a mix of survival and crafting, Rust is the best there is. For everyone else, there are plenty of other games. For more survival action, check out our reviews of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and Metal Gear Survive. And for everything else, stick with us here at IGN.
Sen ne beni oyala, ne omuz ovala, işime bakarım. Gidene acımak mı? Bu yükü taşımak mı? Yarayı kaşımak mı? Ben ne sana taparım, ne seni ararım, ne trip atarım.